Well, happy and excited to welcome our next guest this morning. He is Mr. Lee McFerren, the Lee McFerren Agency. Lee, good to see you this morning.
Good morning, Luke. How are you?
Welcome. It's great having you on this morning.
Well, thank you very much.
When I got your text message last night, I put a big smile on my face. So how's life, buddy?
I almost didn't make it. You know, it was so sunny coming through 27. I got to the intersection and I turned left instead of right.
Yeah.
And luckily there's a car behind me that honked. You're going the wrong way, buddy. So
friendly folks around here.
That's right. But other than that, it was a nice morning drive to Titusville.
Well, good to see you. Let's get caught up with you. You've been pretty busy.
Sure.
New office location on Chestnut Street. How's that been working out?
Yeah, it's been working well. The main thing is people know where I am now. Obviously, as a native of Meadville and a graduate of Allegheny College in 1988, people know who I am. I wrestled both high school and college. So the name recognition on the window means
you were
something.
a pretty good wrestler.
Well, you know, we all have our moments. I remember, competing against Titusville in the 80s, and they always had really competitive teams as well. So,
when did your love for sports really develop? Was it early on?
Yeah, it was early on. I mean, my first love of athletics was baseball, and went to a Pirates game probably the first time in elementary school. A local Meadville man was gracious enough to take me to a Pirates game. His name was Alan Mosley, and he spent his entire career, I think, working for PPG. He's retired now, of course, but ever since then, I really loved sports, whether it was baseball, basketball, football, and of course wrestling.
What player did you look up to?
Oh man, I love Dave Parker, the Cobra, number 39, left-handed batter. I think he's still living in Cincinnati, Ohio right now.
Wow.
And he once played for the Reds after leaving the Pirates. It was just amazing. You had Richie Zisk, Richie Hebner, guys like Al Oliver, Willie Stargell, of course.
Yeah.
And baseball as a youth in Pittsburgh, it was just incredible. You go to Three Rivers Stadium and just couldn't believe it.
When I was growing up, we had guys like Van Slyke and Bonds and Bonilla, and Van Slyke was one of my favorites. Bonilla, you could rely on these guys being on the team for year after year. It seemed rare when they would trade them out someplace, and then early '90s that all changed, and I think my love of baseball sort of faded at that point because it's like, well, I can't invest loving somebody if they're going to be gone the next year.
Right. Well, my love for baseball was so intense that I would listen to the games on the radio and then go into my mom's bedroom, fill out a scorecard manually.
Wow.
And listen to the games and keep score.
Really?
Yeah. And I wouldn't miss a game. I mean, that was the thing I did. And of course, back then, baseball cards were very, very popular. And as a kid, you always collected those. I don't think we knew about the significance of keeping the rookie cards,
right?
Because had I done that, I probably wouldn't be sitting in front of you right now. I would have kept these cards in mint condition, unscratched, unbent, and all that sort of stuff. So if there are any young people out there still collecting cards, I'm sure you know by now, do not bend the cards or scratch them. Put protective shields over them. So they may be worth something.
Can you still eat the bubble gum out of them?
I haven't purchased cards in a while, so I don't even know if they still had the bubble gum. But when we did eat it, it was very hard.
Yeah, it was. It was. So baseball, is that still the passion sport for you, or?
No, you know what? I still do love baseball, but it's more football now.
Why and that's for a lot of people now.
Yeah. Well, I think football as a business has become a year-round thing. Even in the reporting that we do on the station, you always try to find some football angle. I don't know. Like for me, it's the toughness, the one-on-one, the battle. Like the idea of hitting someone so hard, not to hurt them, but to tackle them in a manner that really makes a difference. Like football isn't, in my mind, I'm going to intimidate you kind of competition, right? And so it's very much one-on-one, even though it's a team battle. And I just think that there's something about running a football. There's something about catching it and scoring, right? The jubilation of scoring brings about so much ecstasy. It's just, this is why you see these guys going crazy when they're scoring and stuff. So it's like an out-of-body experience. You imagine being in front of 110,000 people in a college stadium and scoring a couple touchdowns in a big game, And so And then there's always the individual stuff where people, they want to be known as individuals.
Is it? Do you think partly it's also just that society we're in now, where everybody wants it quick, and they want that excitement. Where baseball's more laid back, and you're looking at 3-4 hours of just kind of waiting.
Yeah, I think baseball has really clung to the traditionalist approach to the game. We're going to take 2 minutes in between every pitch.
Right.
We're going to just drag it out. And, all right, whereas football, it's completely different. Every 40 seconds or so, you're going to have a play, and there's going to be something that's going to occur. And football takes quite a long time, too. 3 hours is roughly a football game's length, as well as baseball, unless you're going to extra innings. But, yeah, I don't know what they can do for baseball to just speed up the game. It seems like they don't really want to. That the traditionalists really wanted to kind of stay for it's almost like every game should be on a Sunday afternoon.
Yeah.
Where no one has to work the next morning and that kind of thing. So,
right.
Yeah.
Well, you mentioned wrestling. Was that something that you just grew to love, or when did you know you kind of had a knack for it?
Elementary school. We had I had a bunch of friends. We all started out playing basketball. And then when I figured out I wasn't going to grow, and I said, well, let me try wrestling, because I had some friends who were interested in me wrestling. And so at that time in the 70s and 80s, Meadville had just an amazing feeder program for wrestling. We had so many community people, men and women, who had their kids involved with wrestling. Meadville at one point could have fielded probably 3 or 4 teams.
Wow, really?
We had that many people on the high school and junior high and in the feeder system that it was just continuous year after year. And so once I saw that I could dominate someone one-on-one in 6 minutes and feel victorious, that I've done my job prior to that competition, there's nothing like it. Nothing like going to a dual meet, like say in Titusville, being the underdog, everybody rooting against you, and beating, some wrestler from Titusville, or losing to some wrestler from Titusville, right? I mean, it was amazing.
Do you ever think back to a moment? Do you have somebody in the top of your mind as somebody that you either beat and was a really proud moment, or they beat you and you thought, boy, if I could just go back.
Right. No, there's 2 of them from the local area. One was Oil City. There was a gentleman named Ron Carnes. And Ron Carnes was one of the toughest people you ever wanted to wrestle. He was extremely fast, quick, instinctful on the mat. He would do an ankle pick, basically underhook and try to sweep you with the other leg and grab your ankle, take you down. Well, we were in districts one year in Erie, and he lunged to do a double leg takedown on me, and I pancaked him and got the takedown and the 3 back points, and I ended up upsetting Ron Carnes in that event. And so that was one of the biggest moments, because up until then I hadn't beaten Ron. He had always got the best of me. The other one I think was, I think this gentleman was here in Titusville, named Steve Toth. And I'm not sure that Steve is still living today, and pardon me if I'm misspeaking, but I think he passed several years ago. I remember being at Edinburgh, and this is kind of a funny story, but I was sick, and I said, Steve, listen, man, we're going to wrestle. I'm not feeling well. Don't squeeze my stomach. So,
which is a big invitation,
right? But Steve Toth was the only guy at the time that I can remember that ever beat me twice. And he was just tough as nails, continued to pressure you. There was no getting off the mat for a break when you wrestled either of those guys. And so I do remember those times very vividly.
What is it about that sport where there is such admiration for others? Instead of, I hate this person and, you're going down. I mean, I understand there's part of that.
Yeah.
But there's also the respect part of that. Because you saw these folks outside of just the team versus team aspect of it.
Well, I think the camaraderie came in when you realized that everybody just sucked about 10 pounds to get to weight.
Right.
Back then, you could wear a garbage can, a garbage plastic bag, and run all day to make weight and stuff like that. And I think we understood what it took to be sort of at the top of our games at that point. Even as young people, we got that. there's also the idea that you wanted to beat the guy. You respected him, but you didn't respect him so much just to let him win.
Right.
And so you're right. After the matches, there was this sort of, hey, great match, Ron, great match, Steve. But next time, it's my turn. I mean, that was even on our teams in Meadville High School, where we had Doug Stanford, who at one point was the winningest wrestler in the state of Pennsylvania all time. Wow. We had Sean O'Day, who ends up, as you know, going on to Edinburgh after transferring to Pitt to become a national champion, right? I couldn't beat those guys on a regular basis, but there were days that I got the best of them, right? I mean, when Doug Stanford's father would want someone to come practice with Doug to get him prepared for, sections, districts, regionals, and then the state tournament, if I wasn't in the tournament, his dad would call me. Wow. So I was honored by that. And same with Sean O'Day. I mean, this guy from 98.
And that made you better, too.
Made me better as well. Sean O'Day, from the time he was 98 pounds, was probably the most aggressive, most fearless wrestler that I've ever known in Meadville. All right, and I've gone on record as saying Sean O'Day is the greatest wrestler ever to come through Meadville High School. We would have these lineup practices where 98, 105, or whatever the weights were, right, all the way up through the 12 weight classes. And, okay, take the guy down. So Sean O'Day could take down probably half the team weighing 98 pounds.
Wow.
I mean, he was fearless. But, we once wrestled and I was at Allegheny College. This is how competitive he is. And we wrestled at Allegheny College. While I was there, I came to Meadville High School to wrestle a freestyle match. I wrestled Sean. There hadn't been too many times that we'd really competed against each other outside of practice. So we shake hands, we do our thing. He beats me, I think, 5-2 or something like that. After the match, he says, nice workout. Right? That's how competitive he was. Now, I reminded Sean of this about 3 or 4 months ago when I saw him back in Meadville. I told his daughter, how nasty of a guy he was for treating his lifelong friend like that. But that's how it was.
Yeah.
I respect you, but when I get a chance, I'm going to beat you as best I can.
Well, now, Lee, you're trying to beat insurance prices and help folks out with your agency. Before we get into that real quick, let me do this. This is the Morning Drill. You're watching it on Stream Television in Armstrong and listening to it on the Allegheny News Talk Sports Network. Here with Lee McFerren this morning and getting a great look back at some Meadville Bulldog wrestling history, and we'll get into some other sporting events here in just a moment. But you just moved new office location on Chestnut Street.
Yes.
What services do you offer, and how far out do you go to help folks?
Sure. I'm licensed in the state of Pennsylvania as a one-man insurance agency, independent. That's about all I can handle right now is one state. As you know, Pennsylvania is 6 hours across.
Yeah.
So that's plenty of distance and opportunity for me. I can do farms. I can do your toys, such as your boats, your motorcycles, your RVs, your personal autos, your business autos, renters. So just about a full inclusion of insurance products is what I can offer. And so I think what you get with the agency, since I am still so small, is that you really do get personal attention. I probably know every one of my customers when they call me on the phone. Wow. There's only a few maybe that I still don't remember, right? And as I've said to you before, I started with 0 clients. And so this is a 5-year progression of growth that I'm not looking to go anywhere fast. Insurance is helping people over the long term. So I don't mind the sort of one account at a time approach. I don't get too nervous about, if this week I didn't help as many people as I want. The people know that I'm there. As you mentioned, that storefront on Chestnut is beautiful. I have that gold lettering, LVM on the window, and you can see that it says Auto, Home, Life, and Business. Many of my customers have my cell phone, so I meet people where they need to be met, Monday through Sunday, wherever, at their home, at a local store, in my office. It really doesn't matter. When you and I were kids, the insurance guy came to your house. My old insurance guy, I never forget his name, was Mr. Mach. Came to our house. We offered him coffee. He talked to my mom, and they conducted business. And so that's really what I always want to stick to, is the personal touch of being an agent. Because I think people need to depend on you. And so when they call you, they need to speak to you. A lot of people get real frustrated when they sign up insurance with an agent and then they can never get the agent afterward. And I realize a lot of agencies are bigger than mine, but if there's one thing that I think we as agents need to stick to, is that really that personal touch. So if you call me on a Sunday and I'm not doing something real important with my family, I'm coming. And I mean that sincerely. So, because if it's important enough for you to get that kind of service, I need to offer it. Because you're going to tell someone that, hey, this guy took the time out. And that's important to people.
I think you're awfully proud of that.
I'm very proud of that.
You
very
should be.
proud of that. Yeah. I mean,
so if you're watching us in Edinburgh or listening to us in Franklin or doing both in Titusville or Oil City, and somebody's interested, they can reach out to you.
Absolutely. I'll be there in 40 minutes it takes me to get down.
That's right.
Route 27 or 322.
Depending on where the sun's positioned in the sky.
Hopefully there'll be no sun in my eye.
Yeah. And again, we'll give folks the phone number and website in just a moment. Quickly, though, a couple big stories you have, and final look at Lee's report coming up in just a few moments. But Magic Johnson, boy, that's an interesting situation there, isn't it?
Yeah. Well, I think what happens is, like all things, people's egos get in the way. What was surprising about the Rob Pelinka situation is that Magic was already grooming him, according to the reports, to take over his job. So when you get into all these alleged situations with backstabbing and all these sort of things, you have to wonder what else was really going on, right?
Right.
I mean, I don't think Pelinka's character was any sort of surprise to Magic Johnson. The guy's been around basketball for 40 years. He has a lot of contacts, as he mentioned. And so when his personal friends started calling him saying, hey, you better watch out for this guy, there could be some trouble in the road ahead, then you really have to pay attention to that. But Magic Johnson's Magic Johnson. He is the Lakers.
Right.
So I don't care what Rob Pelinka or anybody else do to him, he's the Lakers. And so if he really wanted to be there, he would still be there. But, as I reported, he just said, hey, I'm good, I'm done, I don't want to deal with this, let's move on.
And I was going to say, just to get a couple things in, because time's winding down, but we could spend like hours just chatting. Any significance to the timing of Ben's apology?
I think it's too little too late. I'm a huge Roethlisberger fan on the field, always really respect his talents. But this is the one thing I've always said, and I said this to you a while ago, hopefully you remember it. He throws a rock, then puts his hands behind his back and says, I didn't do it.
Right.
And now that's come to fruition, right? He's saying, oh, yeah, I shouldn't have spoke about Brown the way I did. And Brown saying earlier that, we've been on the same team for a while now, man. I've only been to your house one time. So I'm not saying guys have to be best buds, but, I wish Ben would have just said what he said the other day a long time ago.
Do you think Bell and Brown miss being on that Steeler team? Especially when you're starting to see these stories out of the Jets now and what's going on there? Or are they just going to let things play out and see what happens?
I'm interested to see what happens with Le'Veon Bell. I'm going to make a prediction that, like a lot of Steelers who leave Pittsburgh, his career will never be the same. That's unfortunate because I think he still has a lot of talent. And I don't really know about what's going on in New York. I haven't read the reports as closely. Antonio Brown, I think, will maybe have a couple good years in Oakland. But then, who knows after that. I wish him well. I want to see what he does because obviously he has something to prove.
The thing with Bell is, are you going to question the fact that he's not with the Steelers? That if he does have a downward turn, or the fact that he took a year off?
Right.
That's going to be interesting to see how that plays out.
Yeah.
A lot of storylines coming up into the scene.
A lot of storylines. Excited to see the start of mini camp and all those sorts of things coming up.
Lee, what's the phone number if folks want to get a hold of you?
Sure. 814-209-7375 is my office number.
or go to McFerrenAgency.com.
That's right.
24/7.
Or stop and see me.
Yeah, 260 Chestnut Street. Lee, it is a pleasure.
Thank you so much for having me.
We're going to make this happen more often.
Sure, absolutely.
All right. Thanks, buddy.
Take care. Yep.